Thank you for joining us for Chatting in the Void, a conversational podcast hosted by Cthulhu Tilly and Hallik. All right, well, do we want to get started?
Yeah.
Okay. Podcast episode 5. Welcome to Chatting in the Void. Again, another time. Every other week. I guess it's, let's see here. I guess it's second and fourth Saturday, 7 p.m. CST. Does that sound right?
Yeah.
Just getting the schedule? Okay. All right. I think that's correct. Excellent.
Makes sense.
I have good news. Oh, he's playing Ace Attorney. That's a good game. It's not a phase.
Good news. I like it.
Yeah, I have good news. I passed my exam today. I'm a little tired because I took like a 3-hour exam, but I got it done in like an hour and 45 minutes, and I passed with like a 97%. So I did really good, and I'm pretty happy about that. I'm Network Plus certified, or at least I will be when it goes through in like 5 days or whatever. But yeah, it's super exciting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Congratulations, my friend.
Hopefully it'll result in a pay raise, but yeah, I'm now Network Plus certified, which is exciting.
Excellent.
Yeah. How was your week?
Now we use I didn't do much, but it felt like I did a lot because it's like spring cleaning kind of week.
Right.
I didn't do anything special, like I didn't go out or anything like that. But oh my god, did I remodel like my entire room?
Yeah, that's exciting.
I moved everything. I moved everything around. I cleaned the rabbit's playpen. I have the Coco camera up again, and there she is. And it's like I have a brand new room almost. If we're not for the fact that the only thing that I didn't move was my desktop and my bed.
Right.
Yeah.
The two things that you spend the most time on.
The little rabbit has a lot more space. Yeah. The little rabbit has a lot more space to run around, so she's been keeping me awake at night, fucking running all over the place.
Of course.
For those that don't know, rabbits are now the 3rd most popular pet in the world.
No way.
But if you like sleeping, don't get a rabbit.
Came here for the podcast, staying for the bunny cam. It's true. It's just the state of life.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's really interesting. Rabbits make good pets, don't they? They're kind of chill, calm. They're crazy.
Very chill. I wouldn't do so. If you go down the list, I personally would not be able to do a dog because dogs are way too high energy for me, even a small one.
Right.
Like I don't have it in me to like properly take care of a dog, take him to the park, play with them every day, make sure they're spending their energy. I can't. I knew that from the get-go, so I could be a dog. That's one.
Of course.
2 is I cannot handle poop very well.
Yeah.
I cannot do that shit. Pun intended. And so the dog was just out of the way. Then I was like, okay, let's try cats. Cats are cool.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's a possibility. They take care of themselves, so their poop's not that hard to handle.
Yeah.
But at the time when I moved here to the new location where I am, I was dating my SO and my previous SO, and she had a rabbit, and I consider a rabbit too, because I remember petting her rabbit when I visited her, and oh my god, it was insane. A rabbit, for those that don't know, or at least most rabbits, their fur is softer than that of a cat. Like some cats have coarse fur, you know, but there are a lot of like calico cats that are also like very soft. Right? A rabbit is way softer. Like way softer. It's like the way I described it to her when I first pet her rabbit was like, it's like I'm touching a cloud. It really is. and that kind of like stuck with me. And I started doing some research about what it takes to take care of a rabbit, and I learned that just like cats, they are very, very clean.
Yeah,
and their poop is literally odorless. Like,
yeah.
You could just it's like odorless.
Yeah,
it doesn't smell of anything.
Yeah, and like most rodents,
they don't smell of anything.
Yeah, and like most rodents, it's pelletized too, so it's like super easy to clean up, and it doesn't make a mess. Yeah, that's a common thing with rodents. My nieces have a guinea pig. And they really like the guinea pig because it's just easy to take care of. And it's a lot of rodents are that way where it's like you just feed them and they're super affectionate, but it's not like a lot of animals like where cats, if you're not affectionate with them, they'll get mean sometimes. And like they'll lose that ability to receive affection properly. Same with dogs oftentimes. Now, obviously dogs is kind of less of a problem because usually they're pretty pushy. But yeah, that's interesting. Interesting. Rodents, I guess it kind of makes sense. Rodents would make a good pet. Maybe I'll have to get a rabbit when I move out. Because I don't really know.
Well, watch out, because rabbits, it's not as simple as it sounds. Like I'm making it sound like it's all, but it's all heaven and whatnot. But it's not. There's a lot of down things, especially for tech guys, because you have to. So there's a misconception about how rabbits are supposed to be kept in cages, and that's not true.
Right.
It's only recently that rabbits became like a household pet. So there's a lot of like misinformation about rabbits. But one of the biggest ones is that they're supposed to be kept in cages.
No.
When in reality they're not.
Yeah.
And also, they're not an animal. They're not like guinea pigs or like hamsters that live a few years. Right. Rabbits can live almost as long as cats.
Right. They can live
10
like 20,
to 12
30
years.
years.
The average lifespan.
No.
Yeah. I know some cats get fucking old, but like not that old. Rabbits can stay alive anywhere between 10 to 12 years if you take proper care of them, and they're like, spayed and fixed and whatnot.
Right.
But and also my rabbit is free roam, and you have to like fix the entire room where they're gonna stay. There has to be no cables around. There has to be like you have to make sure that the furniture that they can reach is not something that they can chew on, or if they can indeed chew on it, you don't care about it getting chewed. Stuff like that. There's a lot of prep work and whatnot. But after everything is set up, it's so easy, because rabbit food, hay, which is 80% of their diet, is cheap. It is so cheap.
Yeah, and I'm not really worried about all of the requirements and all that, because I mean, I grew up on a farm, so I'm used to taking care of animals.
No.
I grew up with dogs and cats my whole life, which I think are probably about as time intensive, at least, as a rabbit. One of the main things that I like about it is, like you did talk about, they're smaller, they do require less space. And it's not something like one of the hugest things that I personally is, I don't think I would ever live in an apartment with a dog. And the reason why is because to me, a dog is like, well, they're a purposeful animal to me. And when I see a dog that's just treated as kind of like a house plant, I kind of get upset.
Yeah, me too.
Right now, that's when Jet. Anyways, so I kind of like the fact that rabbits are fairly like low intensity, kind of like a cat, where you can kind of just, you don't have to. No, I don't think I've ever heard somebody like, I have to leave this party early because I have to go check on my rabbit. So, yeah,
you can't pull that excuse.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's interesting. I think they would make a good little pet for like an apartment living kind of thing, and you can let them roam and yeah, I definitely don't think, I think that a misconception of any animal would be that pretty much any animal is supposed to be kept in a cage. I think the only exclusion to that would be very small rodents, where it's like, mice and gerbils and stuff like that, and even guinea pigs to some degree. Although guinea pigs you're supposed to let out quite a bit and let them roam around.
Yeah. You're supposed to let them run around under supervision. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Same with a rabbit. Like, ideally speaking, for a rabbit, you're supposed to have them free roam. Like, that's the best scenario. But if you have no choice, you can put them in a properly large cage. Like, a lot of people recommend like a large dog pen. Like, I don't know if you've seen one of those. It's like basically a huge steel cage. Yeah. For a doggo, you can keep the rabbit there while you go out to work, and then when you come back at night, you can let the rabbit out. But even then, it's not ideal. Rabbits have so they're kind of like cows, where the digestive system they have to constantly be eating because they push food through eating more food. Right. So if they are like lazing around all day, not moving a whole lot, it could cause digestion problems. Right. Which is what the number one thing that actually kills rabbits, because one of the other downsides of having a rabbit is that they're prey animal. So when they get sick, they hide, they don't show it, they don't say anything. And if a rabbit gets sick, it could die in a span of anywhere between 6 to 12 hours. So it's scary like that. Yeah. So for the number one thing that kills rabbits is this thing called GI stasis, where it's literally gastrointestinal stasis, where they stop digesting things and they die.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
The number one thing that helps contribute to that is just a poor lifestyle for a rabbit, which is in a cage, not moving a lot, being bored, stuff like that. Yeah. But my rabbit is not working, I can tell you right now. Especially at 4 a.m. in the morning, when she's bouncing all over my bed.
Yeah, of course. And being adorable while she's at it. But yes.
Yeah, I don't get to see her being adorable because I'm trying to sleep.
If you're listening to the audio podcast and you would like to see the rabbit, our podcast is on YouTube. And there will be the rabbit on there. So, yeah, you can see the rabbit getting pet. It's pretty cute. I'm not gonna lie. I have it up on my other monitor. It's very adorable. But yeah, I've always wanted my brother wanted a chinchilla when we were younger, we were never allowed to have any rodents as pets because he went to go get a chinchilla, or at least visit a chinchilla to see. So he went to a pet shop, and we discovered that he is grossly allergic to rodents, and he broke out in hives and everything, and still does to this day. When he visited, he got to play around with our niece's guinea pig, and he didn't feel well the next day, and we think that it was because he had allergy problems with being around the guinea pig.
That sucks, man.
But yeah, my other weird rabbit story is when I was growing up, my family had Japanese exchange students that we would have through the 4-H program. So they would send their essentially a kid between the ages of 12 and 15 to 17. I think that was kind of I think 12 to 17 was the age range. Over, and they would stay with the family for a couple months and stay in the U.S. Part of the exchange program. I never got to go over to Japan, although that was kind of an option, but it required raising a lot of money, and our 4-H group didn't have the money to do that. So we just were recipients of 4-H exchange students, not we didn't get to go ourselves.
Okay.
But one of our Japanese exchange students had breeding rabbits, and apparently, and like you were talking about right, they're not supposed to be kept in cages. So his thing was he wanted to make a business out of it. So he bought an entire house in the town, a block away from where he was living, and just devoted it entirely to the rabbits. And he had 20 or 30 rabbits, and they had a whole 2-story house to live in that he had changed and modified and everything. He was 15 or 16, I think, and that was his life's goal was to become a rabbit breeder and breed pet rabbits for people. And so apparently he was making enough money to, well, come to the US on that and also to afford an entire house. So I thought that was really crazy. Like, he has an entire house just for his rabbits. But yeah, it was really a very strange and interesting thing. He was also like a star baseball pitcher. I played baseball, and so we threw the baseball around a lot. And that's where I
used to play baseball when I was in high school.
Yeah, that's when I really got good at catching, because he was like a star pitcher, right? So he would pitch really hard to catch fastballs and stuff like that. And so when I was playing with him that summer, I ended up getting pretty good at being a catcher for him, and that ended up playing well into my baseball career, which then promptly ended when I got hurt, which is the second sport I've been kicked out of for getting hurt. Turns out when you hurt yourself bad enough, people just go, yeah, you're not allowed to play sports with us anymore. And so, yeah.
I really wish we had like a bigger fan base, or a fan base at all, so that they could turn this into some homoerotic fan art. If I had the ability, I totally would, but I can't.
I know some people who
BL out of nowhere
who already would, to be quite honest. But yeah, I do have a weird story from that.
It is so funny because the setup is just like that of a fucking cheesy BL. It's like exchange student in a summer.
Yeah, exactly. Getting better at baseball together. But instead I was just uncomfortably trapped in a room with him while he slept on my bed and I slept on a cot.
Plot twist. The exchange student is the actual catcher in their relationship. And there's a dynamic going on.
Yes.
About that dichotomy between them.
Well,
their baseball relationship and their relationship.
In baseball,
that's an interesting little.
In baseball, the catcher calls the shots.
I see. I never played catcher. I played first base and outfield. That's all I ever played.
Yeah, I'm the one who signals. Well, then again, the pitcher can also just say no. I'm going to pitch what I want, which is never fun. But like the catcher signals to the pitcher what pitch to send, and so yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I played baseball junior high into high school, and then I got hurt, and then I stopped. I threw out my arm really bad. I threw my arm so bad that I couldn't play for like a month, and it was like ligament pain from the tip of my middle finger all the way up to like my neck for like months. I couldn't sleep. It kept me awake. That's how bad it was. It's like I wouldn't sleep. Like I didn't sleep for like a month. I got like an hour of sleep a night, which wasn't that abnormal for me at the time, to be honest. Horrible. But just being in pain was awful. I really didn't sleep at all during high school, pretty much at all. But playing baseball was when I threw out my arm was part of that. It hurt really bad. And now to this day, I have to be really careful with my right arm, because if I like stress it too much, I'll start getting pain all the way down to my elbow, from my shoulder to my elbow. So there's some long-term damage there, but yeah, it's
I'm getting uncomfortable just imagining.
Yeah. I threw it out. I got a guy out.
So what's the
But I threw from center field because I was a center fielder. I played like a bunch of roles. I was a center fielder, a catcher, and a shortstop. So like played the straight line out from catcher all the way out. Although I didn't pitch. I pitched in junior high, but not in high school. I wasn't good enough in high school, but I threw all the way from central outfield all the way to home base and got a guy out, but then was like, oh, I can't throw anymore. And I had to go back to my coach and be like, I can't throw anymore. And he's like, why? I am in intense pain. I cannot move my arm. And so it was rough.
Yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah.
Yeah. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, yeah. Yeah. 'Cause, 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 yeah. So was that the story you wanted to tell us, or was it something else that you kind of like?
No, that was it. That was
it.
That's my baseball story.
That's your baseball story. During high school, I was fortunate enough that I was in like a campus kind of high school / private school. So we had our own baseball field when we practiced there. So the classes would end and we just walk 2 minutes and we were right there on the baseball field.
Yeah.
And I always hated doing those long throws, man. We would have to throw it all the way from outfield all the way to home base. You do it eventually. You have to warm up a lot to make those throws.
Yeah.
So I could imagine just destroying your arm if you just go for it and didn't properly warm up. Oh my god, you're done for.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even try. Honestly, if I was in your situation, I would fucking throw it to the shortstop and be like, "You fucking throw it. I don't care."
Yeah. Yeah.
I know. I knew. If I didn't warm up, I knew I couldn't make that throw. I would have sent it to my friend.
Yeah. I made the throw though. Catcher got it and cut him out, and then we won the game. But that was my last. That was my last baseball game because I ended that season. Hurt. Still, I couldn't throw. And so
let's add this to the fucking fan art. It's like tragic story arc.
Tragic story.
He can't play baseball anymore. At the stage 2, they has to return back to Japan. What will become of the couple?
Oh no. Yeah.
All right. So I know that you had a good excuse because you dodged all my attempts to get you to play Dota.
Okay.
So, what are going to be your excuses this week?
This week, I worked 50 hours, and
okay, so like that stopped you before. You've literally been like, I've worked 50 hours. All right, let's go do something relaxing and chill. Like, I don't know, rock climbing.
Hey, I have a standing plan on Friday night. I go rock climbing. But yeah, no, I also studied 22 hours this week for this exam. So I basically worked 72 hours this week. And then went rock climbing last night because I needed something to kind of cool my nerves because I was kind of getting stir crazy last night. And then today I was like, I woke up at 9 a.m. today and I was just like wired the whole morning. I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. It's like I got my exam space ready because it's a super stringent exam. So for Network Plus, I had to remove, obviously I have a bunch of stuff. I had to unplug my 2 other monitors because you're only allowed to have one screen. I had to set up my space, remove everything off of my desk. There's a list of things that you can have within arm's reach of yourself. And it's you can have a drink and that's pretty much it. I wasn't even allowed to have a piece of paper and a pencil type thing. There's a whiteboard that's built into the application that you're supposed to use if you're taking notes. And you the whole time you're on cam, if you leave cam for any time, if anybody comes into the room while you're doing the exam is forfeit and you have to retake it. Super stringent. And so I had to remove everything off. I had to remove, I had a laptop on 2 laptops on my desk and stuff like that I had to set on my bed, over there. And then I have an all-in-one and a TV and all sorts of stuff that's also on my desk that I had to lift off of my desk and go set elsewhere in my room. Because they would have no, you can't have that on your desk during the exam. And so, yeah. And then that started at 1:30, is when my exam actually started. And so I took care of that. And then, oh God, that's how your tracking just break there for a second. I know. And so the exam started, and then I was in the exam for about, starting at 1:30, which the first 30 minutes were just warm up. So starting at 1:30, after the exam was ready to go, I started the exam probably a little bit after that's 1:45, 15 minutes to get everything set up and talk to the proctor and all that. And then I finished the exam around an hour and 45 minutes later. And I passed it with a 90%. And so, yeah, I'm Network Plus certified, which is exciting.
Yeah, but
hoping that I can convince my boss to pay me more now. Probably not, though.
You should. You should.
Or at the very least, I'll start looking for other jobs. But yeah.
Yeah, you gotta threaten him with that.
Exactly.
Because,
exactly.
If you don't do anything, they won't do anything either. They don't care.
Well, one of the main things is that I also have to like leverage it into a job that's going to, do more for me, not less. So like either better benefits or better pay, but it can't just be like, I can just go get another job now, because it's like, it has to be a better job than the one that I currently have, or else threatening to leave is just kind of a moot point. So yeah.
Well, you don't threaten to leave.
It's
Whatever.
true.
Anyways,
it's true.
You're still dodging the question.
Yes.
We're playing Dota 2.
Okay. All right. You know what? I'll commit to playing Dota 2 sometime this week. My schedule has miraculously freed up without the exam on my plate, although I'm already deciding to prep for my next exam because I'm a crazy person like that. But yeah. I'm down to play Dota 2 for sure. Maybe we can do it. Do you want to stream it? I would be cool with streaming it if we want to do it on one of the nights that you stream.
We can do it right after the podcast if it's up to me.
Sure, we might be able to do that. I will want to grab some dinner first, though.
Yeah, me too. I haven't eaten.
We'll probably pause stream and then come back and play some Dota for a bit after the podcast.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I have to make a Smurf account because it's like if I know that you're an experienced League player, but even then, like even if I were to queue with you on my main account, so there's like this ranked queue and there's unranked queue, right?
Right.
The problem with unranked queue is that unranked queue also has its own hidden MMR.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't show it to you, but it's there.
Yeah.
So it'll just be too much. We'll play against bots on the first one, and then just so you can get used to the UI, and then we'll figure it out from there.
Yeah.
But see, the cool thing in oh my god, it excites me so much when there's a new player try out Dota for the first time that I get to play with. Not only because I get to share my passion with someone else, but like so. It's just that heroes can be so wacky that there are certain heroes that can do really interesting things when put together. So, in MOBAs in general, this is not necessarily just Dota 2, but there's this like pro coach that I listen to a lot when it comes to like Dota. He says in Dota, 1 + 1 does not equal 2.
Right.
So what does that mean? It means that if you have one hero, a hero has its own set of abilities and it can output this much damage or do certain amount of things. But if you put two heroes together, they can do a lot more together than it would imply normally. So like, let's say that a hero has like a combo, right? His abilities does a combo, it does 1,000 damage. If you combo it with another player, it wouldn't do 2,000 damage. It would do like way more. It would like their effects would kind of like multiply each other in a sense. So what excites me a lot about getting you to play Dota is that we could do this some stupid strategies together and just get away with murder and just have fun and just laugh like fucking monkeys all day long. That's why I like playing. The problem that I have is that the current person that I play Dota with, he only wants to play mid lane. It's the lane where you go alone in. Technically nobody else is supposed to be there for the first few minutes of the game. And it's so frustrating to me because we're in Discord, we're in voice comms, and he's just like chilling in mid, and I'm like having to play with some random ass person who I can't even talk to because I mute everybody by default because they're toxic.
Right. I definitely would play a duo lane more likely because I prefer playing support class and stuff like that anyways.
Duo lane is so fun.
Yeah.
I love fucking just having a lane partner that I can actually yell at when they do stupid shit. It's my favorite thing.
You're gonna yell at me a lot because I do a lot of stupid shit, and then sometimes my stupid shit works out, and then people.
Yeah, that's me right there too.
Yeah,
I go monkey. I see things. I see enemies. Neurons activate. I push buttons and go.
Yeah. There have been a lot of times where I've been playing with people in League of Legends where I've done something absolutely idiotic and then it worked out. And when I first started doing like, no, you fucking idiot, and then it works out and they're like, how the fuck? Why do you get away with this? And it's just like, yeah, I definitely get the Dark Main-esque feel of sometimes just like my magical power in some video games is lowering everyone else's IQ in the game to my own on the enemy team. So I make a stupid decision and then they make an even stupider one and then I profit.
Oh yeah.
And so
that's love. Yeah. That's lovely. That's the best. Because so as a support player myself, like, I play support too. I've been playing carry recently just because I'm just trying different things out. But like, I see the enemies, and I'm like, okay, I'm a support player. I'm the lowest net worth player in the in the entire fucking game. You know, if I go in, cast all my spells, and then die, and then like make the opponents kind of like initiate on me, and then I see that as a win. First, as a support player, it's like, okay, that's a win because my team is behind me, and they can come in and just clean up the fight after that. Like, it's just fun. Like, I like being that initiator. Like when I play support, I find that initiators are probably the ones that I have the most fun in.
Yeah, same. That's why
I don't know. I have like a knack for catching people when they're out of position.
Yeah.
So heroes that help you like punish those. Those are the heroes I play the best with.
Yeah, that's definitely how I feel about League of Legends. I don't know if those skills will transfer over to Dota 2 very well yet, but I'll probably have to tweak them. But yeah, that's definitely what I like about support class as League of Legends is concerned. Like I was talking about, a huge part of what I do when I'm playing support in League of Legends and when I'm playing with somebody else is specifically trying to kind of set the pacing of the lane so that I have control over what's going on. And when I can do that, I can do a lot of things about catching people out or making good engages that set up my team to succeed. And, starting that in my own lane with my own AD carry and then carrying that into team fights helps a lot in League of Legends. And so, yeah, I definitely feel like those same skills are involved in Dota 2, where it's like learning how to read the map, learning how to catch people out, learning to understand where you're strong and where you're weak, and when you're strong and when you're weak based on game state compared to the other characters in the game. And so, yeah, a lot of like in-depth knowledge and stuff like that that goes into playing support is a lot of what I like. It's very heady, but for me, it's very interesting because I don't really play games intellectually so much because like you're talking about, like I kind of just brain off and play instinctually. And so in doing so, I learn how to do a lot of that just gut feeling based. And so people think I'm crazy when I make some choices in League of Legends and then it plays out well because my gut's just good.
Yeah, you have to have that gut feeling.
Yeah.
It's just like you have to. Sometimes there's not enough time to like consider. Okay, he's here. That's there. Like, all of that. Like sometimes you just have to go. It's just go time, and then you have to work based on instinct more than like thought. And definitely a skill. That's an asset to have as a support player.
Yeah.
But let's in the last couple of weeks, there's been a lot of like big game releases.
Yeah.
I feel, especially the biggest one being Elden Ring.
Yeah.
Have you played Elden Ring yet?
I have not. I have a copy of it. One of my friends, he has. I don't know what he has. Have you ever heard of the credit company called Yotta? It's YOTTA.
No.
It's
nope.
I don't know exactly how it works. All I know is he texted me saying that somehow his credit card gave him a free copy of the game. I don't fucking know. I'm confused. He bought a copy and then got a second copy for free or some nonsense like that. And so he sent me his extra copy. essentially. Ironically,
nice.
he's actually one of my friends who listens to the podcast. So thank you, by the way. As I know I've already said to him a couple times, but yeah. So I have a copy of it that I need to play, but I haven't played it yet because I haven't played pretty much anything this week because I have been working and studying and sleeping, and that's it.
That's it. So I used to be like, the classic gamer where like a big game release would come out and then I would just like be day one playing it right there. It's just, I find it that I don't know. I'm getting old now. So now I just want to play my games and that's it.
Right.
Like this whole hype of a new game coming out.
Right.
It's not being a thing. So here's the thing with the hype about Elden Ring. Like everybody, everybody's like, oh, new Dark Souls, oh, open world Dark Souls, I can't. It's like, okay, listen, I've played Dark Souls 2, Dark Souls 3, and I still haven't played Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
I forget what the other Dark Souls game was. I'm just thinking of DLCs. But like for me, Dark Souls 2 and 3, they kind of like were enough to like for me to like get it. Okay, I get it. This is kind of like what Dark Souls is.
Yeah,
and when I think of Elden Ring, I'm like, okay, it's just going to be more Dark Souls. I'm not saying no to it, but at the same time, I'm not going to, like, go crazy over it.
Right.
And, like, lose my mind.
Yeah. I'm not going to go crazy over it or lose my mind, although I'm pretty excited about it, mostly because I did play Dark Souls 1, 2, and 3. I've played through and completed...
Favorite Dark Souls? Favorite Dark Souls?
Dark Souls 3. 100% Dark Souls 3.
Fuck.
It's significantly more polished.
Nonsense. Polish is an overrated thing.
Polish is overrated. Not a Nintendo gamer, I see.
Yes. Dark Souls 2 is the best Dark Souls because it has the best PvP, period. Like Dark Souls 2 PvP was so fun. It was actually it's actually the best PvP in the entire Dark Souls series.
I didn't play any of them with PvP. I never did any PvP.
Shame.
I never did any PvP because to me, Dark Souls is a solo player game. To me, I didn't really want to do the PvP or ask for help. So I just won them by my own blood, sweat, and tears. But yeah, I think it's an interesting game design. I like the lack of dissonance in the narrative. It's very linear in the essence of the world is supposed to hurt, so the game hurts. That's the point. It's supposed to come across as a absolutely tragic, abysmal story and no happy endings type thing. And I feel like that is definitely very well represented in the games. And it's very depressing, but I think it's really well done. And so I think they're very honed.
Fantasy, right?
Yeah, it's dark fantasy. But I definitely think I will agree with the vast majority of people. They are a little overrated. I feel like a lot of people give them far too much credit. What I will say is they are probably some of the hardest combat focused games that are not PvP that I've ever played. So if you're talking about challenging combat games, you have like For Honor and stuff like that that are PvP focused, or even, shooters, when you start thinking of like R6 Siege and stuff like that are really challenging. But it's like, I don't think I've ever played a game where I've lost the same exact match a dozen times or more before beating it. And that's just all of Dark Souls. And I think they did a really good job. And it's like, it's interesting because I definitely have heard some opinions of where it's like, well, that's a problem in game design. And it's like, no, because it was intentional. And that's the point. And they also were very distinctively aware when they designed those games that they were not going to be for everyone and that not everyone would like them. They were aware of that.
Yeah. And that is something with especially with like Japanese or Eastern game design philosophy is the amount of amount of giving a fuck from the developers about players playing through all the content that there is to be. Like, so this is kind of like how World of Warcraft used to be. World of Warcraft used to be like, okay, we're going to make a bunch of content, and then we know that not everybody's going to see all of it, you know? Because you're going to level up from 1 to 60 in Classic, or 1 to 70 in Burning Crusade, and you're going to pick a path to go through, and you're probably not going to go through every single area of the game.
Right.
And they were like, okay, that's fine with us. And then they would work really, really, really hard on raids, and then be like, well, or like the last boss of Molten Core, Ragnaros. It's like, okay, well, only like 1% of the player base is ever going to see this, but you know, whatever. Right. It's just, who cares? Yeah, you know, it's there because the game is better of it, not because we want everybody to see it.
Yeah.
But now that's changed. You know. Especially it started changing towards the end of Wrath of the Lich King, it feels, and start of Cataclysm, especially start of Cataclysm. It's like now they care. Now all of a sudden, like they have to make content and make sure everybody gets to see the content, everybody gets to experience the content in their own shit, you know, in their own way. And I don't know. It feels like that kind of philosophy took over, and it sounds good on paper. It's like, okay, we're making content and we're going to make it so that everybody can experience that content. Like, that sounds great in paper. But the result is that, the game kind of like loses
it becomes weaker. It becomes a weaker game. Yeah, I agree. I think another example on the other side of that has lended itself to the realization that game design style is still very prevalent is something like Hollowknight, where Hollowknight is a game where like 3% of the people who play the game finish it. And it's crazy hard. And I mean, like in Hollowknight, they definitely took the design decision of not everyone will see all of the content to a whole new level. As in, like, most of the bosses, in fact, a lot of the bosses in Hollowknight are hidden behind walls that you probably will only find by accident. And you don't even have to fight them. Like, you don't have to defeat them. You really only have to defeat, like, I think it's like 5 bosses total, 5 boss fights total, I think, that you have to win to complete the game. Or maybe it's 6. I can't remember. Because you have to include the Hollowknight. So 6 boss fights to get to the first ending. But there are like dozens of boss fights in the game, and a lot of them are in DLCs, and you don't even ever have to fight them. And so it's really true boss fights. At least there are some like mini bosses and stuff like that that you have to fight. But yeah, it's really interesting, and I don't think they took a whole new approach to that design, and really meshed some of the best elements of a lot of games together into a cohesive story and a cohesive game that really feels fun to play. People have said that Hollow Knight is like, it's like the Dark Souls of like...
I hate that phrase.
Yeah, I do too.
I hate that phrase so much.
I do too. Anytime I hear like, it's like the Dark Souls of X, I'm like, no, it's not, because you can't just make a Dark Souls. But they definitely did a good job. One thing that I definitely think they did really well with is they dispersed the story out into the world. And I think that's a really cool game design decision, that it's like, you don't really know the whole story, and you'll never know the whole story of Hollow Knight because it's hidden behind closed doors. And I think that's cool because it makes it feel like there's a world there. Because just like as you're walking through the world, you'll never know the whole story of whatever town you're walking through because you can't have been there. You can read the writings or whatever of the people who used to live there, but you'll never know the truth and what really happened. And I think that's really unique and really interesting. And I think they did a really good job with it.
So the thing that people have to understand is, like, when it comes to games like that, in my opinion, I'm not a game designer or anything, obviously.
Yeah.
I didn't study for it, but I can tell you I spend a lot of fucking time playing games. It's like, a video game should be an experience, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's online or whether it's solo, it should be an experience that is meant for you to entertain. Now, but video games can, like, is a very complicated things because they're very human things.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, a game is not like a tool. It's not like a hammer where you use. It's just an object that you just use. No, it's something that you not only interact with, but the game interacts with you as you interact with it. So there's a very, very human thing about video games. It's kind of, I don't want to compare them too much to like a movie. Because in a movie, you don't have any interaction. The audience doesn't interact with the movie. The movie just splurges whatever content it has, and the audience has to deal with it in their own way. But so does a video game. A video game will present you content, but you get to play with said content. You get to interact with it. You get to have your own unique and personal experience with said content. You know? Yeah. Meaning that... when it comes to a game like Hollowknight or a game or exploration game or a game with any amount of lore, you know, it's not the same as like watching like a really deep movie that has a lot of backstory to it. No, it's like because the movie will just present you the content and you have to deal with whatever it's given to you. But a video game will present you the content and then you get involved with that content as much as you want. Yeah. Meaning that it doesn't matter if the game has hidden things from you purposely. The game is better off for having hidden those things because the people who want to search for them will search for them, and the act of searching that enhances that experience for the player. Yeah. And the people who don't care about that, they simply don't interact with that aspect of the game and they continue on. And who's right or who's wrong, it doesn't matter. It's not a matter of which player is playing better. It's a matter of their own personal experience with the game is unique. And because the game allows it to be unique like that, the game is a better video game.
100%,
a better
it allows you to engage with the content at your own level. So it's like, for me, the reason why I like engaging, for example, in Dark Souls and in Hollow Knight, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the combat mechanics. I enjoy how challenging they are. I enjoy learning to fight something, although Hollow Knight, ironically enough, I think I enjoyed less than Dark Souls. Because it felt like, to me, it feels like I lose a lot more progress when I die in Hollow Knight, but that might just be because I'm playing it wrong. That's what somebody told me. It's like, you really shouldn't lose that much progress if you die. And I'm like,
there is no playing it wrong.
There's no playing it wrong. It's just how I play the game, and it's not as fun. Yeah. But I do. It is a great game, and part of that is it allowed me to engage with the story and really get me interested in the story more than like a lot of games that I've played where this story is a sideline. So it's like League of Legends or Dota or, Overwatch, where it's like the story is just not really engaged in the gameplay at all. It's just a sideline that some people have created because they're passionate about the game. And that's all right too. There's nothing wrong with that. But what's interesting to me is when it's presented in a way where it's like you get to explore the world. And then it becomes clear too, and it becomes even more real because in Hollow Knight, for example, you get the feeling that the world would exist if you weren't there. In a lot of games, that's hard to do. So like, there are games out there where if it weren't for the main character, it feels like there's no purpose to the world. Nothing's going on. Mm-hmm. In Hollow Knight, it feels like you're just a tiny speck in the wind. Same with most of Dark Souls until you like get to the end and you're really strong and like you're becoming basically a god in the lore. It feels like you're just a speck in the wind in Dark Souls. And you're supposed to feel that way because that's the point. And you're just...
I don't think at any point the player becomes a god.
In Dark Souls?
Not in the literal sense. Not in the literal sense.
Well, like you get to
in Dark Souls 1, you're the chosen undead. In Dark Souls 2, I forget what is that you're called. And then in Dark Souls 3, you're the
Ashen.
Not the Ashes. The Ashen one,
yeah. Correct.
But go on.
And in all of them, you're chosen for a higher purpose. But also in all of them, you are, in the grand scheme of things at the beginning of the game, before you've gone through your story, like you're chosen to go through the story, right? And you're chosen to be the one. But before you begin that journey, you're nothing. And even when you begin that journey, you can be killed by a dog. You know? And then just a normal...
best part too is in Dark Souls 3, like you're told, okay, Ashen one, like, you need to go light the embers, blah 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 blah. But like literally in the exact same scenario where you are told you're the chosen one, there is another chosen one sitting in the corner right there, just mopping about how horrible everything is.
Yeah. And then you meet like 100 other chosen ones as you go through the story, and you really figure out that like you're not a one of a kind, you're not special, you're not unique, you're just a warm body in the room. And then another thing, and you know, spoilers for people who are going to play Dark Souls and haven't, this is why I say at the end of Dark Souls, in most of the games, you to become godlike, as in at the end of the games, you are given a choice, and your decision on that choice determines the outcome of the entire world. Where it's like in Dark Souls 3, for example, it's the one that I know the best. It's the one that I've finished a couple of times. At the end of Dark Souls 3, after you defeat the final boss, you are given the option to rekindle the flame and let the world live for another millennia, or you just let the world die. You're given that choice. You don't have to do it. You can decide to just say, fuck everything. This world is too wretched to be saved. Let them all die. It gives you that choice at the end, which is a really interesting thing because it lets you engage with the story on a whole other level, like I've been talking about, right? It lets you engage with the world. And before that, when you're engaging with the world, it feels like the world is just going on around you and you are just a part of it. Rather than feeling like the world exists for you to explore, you exist to explore the world, if that makes sense. It's kind of like swapping them. The only game that I've really ever delved into, although I haven't actually finished it, that did an interesting, like almost inverse of that is Undertale, which I feel like did a really good job of, it's like... And the thing is it makes sense. It's like the opposite design decision of like in Undertale, you are the crux and you're supposed to be, and pretty much everybody knows it.
Yeah.
And I think that's interesting.
But nobody cares.
Yeah. But I think it's interesting. It's an interesting game design decision, and I don't think there's a right or a wrong design decision there.
The thing about Undertale 2 is you have to keep in mind that it is a game that was designed to be kind of like a parody.
Yeah.
Of our JRPGs in general.
Yeah. For sure.
I mean,
sure.
I shouldn't even say kind of. It's like it literally is a parody. Like the UI itself, it becomes a parody. Like you play with the fucking buttons. Like the UI changes. The rules constantly like get put upside down. The things that are established as normal get destroyed. Like that's literally what a parody is. So I shouldn't even fucking.
It is. It's definitely.
It is a parody of JRPGs.
It is 100%
and that's
a
what
JRPG
makes it great.
parody. So yeah, and that is part of what makes it amazing. Part of what makes it a really strong game. Also, another part of what makes it a really strong game, like we've been talking about, is the fact that in Undertale you are allowed to engage with it on your own terms. And not only are you allowed to engage with it on your own terms, the way you decide to engage with it determines the outcome of the game, the outcome of the story.
Yeah.
And I think that's, once again, like we were talking about, that is the difference. That agency is the difference between reading a book or watching a movie and playing a game. Is in a game, your decisions have agency. Your decisions change the outcome of the story. And that makes it a whole different experience. It's true, not always. I would say in most good games, your decisions impact the outcome.
I think what you're trying. I get it, but it's like
Yeah.
But you stated earlier. It's like a book or a movie doesn't have agency at all. So like
you don't have agency.
Something that's unique to two games. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Like in Ready Player One, where they turn the movies into games and this TV shows into games. I don't know if you've read the book.
No, I've not read the book.
But I always thought that would be so boring to me, to just have to like go through and recite lines in a movie in the correct way and call that a game. Like, I don't know. It just doesn't seem like, to me, I was always like, that would be boring to me, to just be a character in a movie and have no agency.
But that's literally what actors do. So, you know.
But they're creating something.
It's just what you sign up for. Yeah.
Like, in that essence, you're creating something for somebody else. If that makes sense.
Okay.
Right? Like, in Ready Player One, they turn the movies into an interactive content where failing is not interacting with the movie properly. So it's like, if you say a line wrong, you get a negative point. You lose, a bunch of HP per se, right? And so you have to say the lines right. And so it's interesting because, once again, it's a book and it's talking about VR. And so it's like, it's an immersive experience where you're supposed to pretend to be the character in a movie. And I just thought, like, that would be boring to me. And I understand that's what actors do, but the difference between this and acting is, and as an actor, you're telling a story, or you're at least part of telling a story to someone else, right? Whereas in this, it's just engaging with the story. That's all you're doing. You're not telling it to somebody else. It's just for you. And I think that was why I was like, that seems like it would be boring to me, because there's no agency. It doesn't feel like a game. It's not really experiencing the story.
It's kind of like it's like a weird mixture of a game and a movie. Yeah. I got you.
Yeah.
So it is. Okay. So from what I get from Ready Player One is that it is a story about, what could happen in the future and what things could go right and what things could go wrong, especially with as VR tech and our perception of reality can changes with the advance of technology. Yeah, that's one of the things that's kind of like talking about. Yes, that the book is talking about too. Is like, will everything be better because it's in VR? No. Yeah. Not really. At least in my opinion, I don't think so. Because there are, like, okay, sure, we're sitting here talking about how, look, movies, they only tell a story, they don't let you interact with it. Well, it's like, that's not a bad thing in and of itself. Sometimes all you need is for someone to tell you a story. Yeah. And sometimes you want to play a game. It's like, it's two different things. It's not, just because they're different doesn't mean that one is better than the other. It's just they're fulfilling two different purposes at two different times. Right. And what I was saying, and this is what I would say is, like, I would rather, for example, I'd rather watch Iron Man on a screen than play Iron Man in the movie. Yeah. Unless, of course, I was getting paid millions of dollars and telling a story to other people, in which case I'm totally fine with it. But I'm not, like, I wouldn't be interested in engaging with the content in that manner. I would rather watch, because that actor's whole job is to tell me the story. That's the whole point. I don't want to tell the story. I want to consume the story. And I understand that it's like, then here's the funny thing. I'm a novelist. I'm a writer. I'm 25,000 words into a novel. I like telling stories, but the point of telling a story isn't just for me. The point of telling the story is also for whoever is reading it, no matter how many people read it. If it's just over one other person. And so it's like, the story isn't just because I want to write a story. It's also because I have a story to share. And so it's like, if I was sharing a story, I'd be down with that. Oh man, the bunny cam has eclipsed the screen. Cute little bunny. Somebody
oh my gosh.
on mobile they call my rabbit a cat. And I'm like, how dare? It's a rabbit. It is.
This is Index. This is one of my friends. Welcome, Index. Glad to have you. Which I guess is a nice little breaking point to say for all of our podcast viewers, either on YouTube or on any of the podcast apps and services. Our podcast does live stream 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Every other Saturday. It is the second and fourth Saturday of the month, I believe, or just every other Saturday. Second and fourth Saturday of this month, at least. So, yeah. Please join us there on the live stream. It's a good time. And you get to see the rabbit live, as it is freaking so adorable. And look at its little nose. Anyways. Back to my face. There we go.
Back to your face. Let's go.
Anyways, I thought that was an interesting little tangent of like, it's not that that's necessarily a bad design concept. Mm-hmm. I personally don't like it. I think it's interesting, but I personally wouldn't participate in it most likely if it became a thing. Yeah. But yeah, definitely the premise.
I mean, if I
go ahead.
I wouldn't even be that like I think I would have fun with it. If I were to like be given the options, like, oh, you get to act out a movie, and it's like, oh, that sounds fun.
Yeah.
You know, especially if like I'm not disturbing anybody else with my bad acting. You know. Yeah. I'd be up for it. That sounds actually like fun. Yeah. I mean, there's some times of like, just because something is interactable, it doesn't make it better. I think that's the whole message here. And even if that's the case, even if you could make something a piece of literature interactable, it's kind of like, I would describe it as drawing a 2D character and then being forced to draw in it as a 3D character. Right. Like, okay, make a drawing. You have like a beautiful 2D drawing, right? Let's say you have a beautiful 2D drawing that you've done in whatever piece of media you want, whether paint or pencil or whatever, and then somebody comes along and is like, this would have been better if you made a sculpture of it, or if you made a 3D model of it. It's like, no, it's different. It's just different. It's not meant to be better just because it has more dimensions to it. And that's the thing. Just adding more dimensions to something also means adding more points in which things can go wrong. Yeah. And it takes more effort.
Yeah, so, for sure.
And again, that's also another thing. Even in just video games itself, is like people keep trying to add all these features to games all the time, and in at least from what I've heard in game dev, in general, it's like feature adding is its own like little trap or rabbit hole. Yep. That you could go into, that you could like basically never escape, and it's very easy during development for designers to look at the game and think, okay, we need to add this, and that, and then they forget as to whether or not adding something or adding a feature to the game makes the game necessarily more entertaining or more fun.
Feature creep is a huge problem.
Feature creep. That's the word. I couldn't think of it.
Yeah.
Like, right now, the biggest meme is like every game needs to have a fishing minigame. And it's like, no. Yeah. No, not every game needs to have a fucking fishing minigame. In fact. But like, you know, the video game community, don't mention Dark Souls. The video game community, I knew where you were going to go. I knew it. In fact, most games makes a meme. It's like. But yeah. Yeah. Like gamers make it a meme. It's like, oh, the game has fishing, best game of the year. It's like, yeah, cool, that's funny meme, yeah, haha. But like when it comes to serious game dev, feature creeping is such a problem. Yeah, we're like, oh man,
100%.
There's so many games that I've come to play over a long span of time where they keep adding new things, and then the game becomes just completely fucking unplayable.
Yeah.
The biggest ones that I can think of are like, let's say, have you ever played like a mobile game that you really get into and that you play for like a whole year, right?
No.
Have you ever done that, Tuli? No.
No.
Well,
I think the only game that I've ever played like that is Azure Lane. And I mean, that's just because of hot chip girls, and that's pretty much it. So
hot anime booba.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So, okay, well, that's good because I have something to it's like, okay, gacha games or mobile games in general, or, games like that. You get into them, right? And then they kind of, because they're free to play, they have to, like, keep adding content constantly to, like, keep the players entertained. But then what ends up happening is that, okay, they add a new feature, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have to kind of, like, play a minute longer every time that you log into the game to like complete the whatever tasks this new feature asks of you. Mm-hmm. All right, and sure, whatever. But then they add a new 2 months from now, they add another new feature, and then 2 months from now, they add another new feature, and another new feature. And all of a sudden, the mobile game that you were playing that you could just log in while during your lunch break, just play around for a little bit, and then let go and mm-hmm. feel like you did everything you needed to do. Mm-hmm. It's no longer like that. Now instead of taking 50 minutes to get everything done, it takes 30 minutes. And, then a year down the line, instead of taking 30 minutes, it takes an hour.
Yeah.
And it just gets out of control.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, that's probably not the best example. There are a lot of games that I've played that get like that, but I can't think of them right now for some reason.
Yeah. I mean, well, one of those games that we've talked about ad nauseum in episode 1 was Warframe, where it had feature creep as well.
Right.
And yeah, there are a lot of games that have feature creep that just keep on getting more and more bloated with new things. And I can understand like the desire to add more content and add more stuff. But at the same time, it's also like, at what point is it so unnecessary to add those certain things? And I guess part of it is because every developer reaches a certain point in their development where they get to do what they want instead of doing what they have to. And I think that's what kind of mostly leads to feature creep in those instances.
So in game design, I'm very passionate about game design. Yeah. I've never like really go balls deep into it and take it seriously, but I like reading snippets about things here.
Yeah.
Excuse me. A game is supposed to have what is known as a gameplay loop.
Yeah.
Right? I've mentioned this before, but your gameplay loop should be do the fun thing, right? Yep. So what's the fun thing in a shooter game? You shoot the bad guy with a gun. Yep. That's the fun thing. So you do the fun thing for 50 minutes at a time, it starts getting a little stale. So you gotta mix it up. Okay, so like Doom, you gotta do a little bit of exploring now. Oh, maybe there's a secret here, So when you go into a gameplay loop, you do the fun thing, and then you do this other thing, then you go back to doing the fun thing, then you do this other thing, and that is the gameplay loop.
Yep.
of a game.
Yep.
Right? So when the biggest problem that I have with feature creeping is that it ruins that gameplay loop, or it changes the gameplay loop in a way that the developer or the designer did not foresee. Because when the games, in the normal, quote unquote, normal or standard design, the design history of a game, when the original gameplay loop is being designed, it's being designed with just itself. Like, it's just going to be that. Nobody thinks, okay, 5 years on the line, I'm going to have 20 million more things to do. So I need to keep that into consideration. No, the game designers don't do that, So the problem that I have is that with games like that, like Warframe or gacha games or mobile games or whatever game is having feature creep, is that originally the gameplay loop is designed to be an X amount of time long.
Yeah.
Between the fun thing and the side thing. But then as updates come in for a game, that loop gets extended.
Yep.
Sorry, I got stuck. I don't know where. It gets extended where you do the fun thing, and then you do the side thing A, and now you have to do the side thing B, and then you have to do the side thing C, and then you go back to the fun thing. And now you have, instead of having 50% the fun thing and 50% the side thing, you now have the 25% the fun thing and then 75% the side thing.
And it just gets worse and worse.
That you need to interact with.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember because it's like, I'm trying to remember. There's a game that I played where it doesn't remove, but it archives old content. I think it might be Dragon Nest, where it's like when their development cycle loops, which once again, you know, it's that's a game very similar to like Terra, where it's like not top down, but like over the shoulder, like MMO RPG type thing, right? So when they started experiencing feature creep, they wouldn't remove the old content entirely, but they would archive it. So it's like you could access it, but it wasn't part of the main thing. And then that way they were cutting down on that. And then they would try to balance it. So when they're adding, you know, a new dungeon, because that's what it was, like a dungeon crawler thing where you enter the dungeons, right? And that was the fun thing. And then you had to do side quests between the dungeons, or you had to pick up a quest to go complete it in a dungeon type thing. And so you would come back to the main city, pick up your quest, go into the dungeon, complete your quest, come back to the city. And so they eliminated that feature creep by making the archived content still there, so you could still get the rewards from it if you needed to, but they didn't make it part of the main gameplay loop anymore. It was just extraneous content that you could go access if you wanted nostalgia, or if you were looking for a very specific item that was only in them. Yeah. And I think that's like the only way to deal with that, is by archiving that old content and making it not necessary for players to play through in your gameplay loop. Yeah. But that's really hard to do.
World of Warcraft kind of did it in like not on a, I don't want to say like an intentional way, but basically when in World of Warcraft and in just about every MMO, a new expansion comes out, all the old gear, all the old crafting materials, all the old content becomes irrelevant, and everybody just does the new thing, right?
Destiny so
it's kind of like soft archived, where nobody needs to be there anymore. Thank you for the follow. Nobody needs to be there anymore, but you can go back. So like famous things that you could, like, it's a famous thing that you can do in WoW is like just go back to old content and farm mounts from bosses, like the 1% drops. You know, a mount is just a cosmetic thing, nobody needs it, but you can still go get it if you want the looks of the mount, and do all of that. But a more popular example in that is not an MMO comes to mind is kind of like Path of Exile, where Path of Exile, you know, every season they come up with a new mechanic, and then, but they have like so many new mechanics. So like every season, there's literally been like 100 seasons right now, I swear to God, that they can't have all the mechanics on play at the same time. They kind of archive or limit the amount of mechanics that can be in an area at the same time. I personally wish they would quote unquote archive way more of them, because even if you play the new season, like you're playing the quote unquote the new shit, there's still like a million like other mechanics that you have to deal with from like seasons that have been coming in for the past 2 years. And it's just, oh my God, it's so overwhelming. Personally, I wish they archive more so that I could focus more on the new thing. That's why I don't play Path of Exile anymore, because even though I love ARPGs, like my favorite game of all time is Diablo 2, and I fucking love Path of Exile because it's so, like, it's just kind of like it. I can't play Path of Exile because it's so overwhelming. I stopped playing for 6 months, I come back in, and it's like I have to fucking go to the wiki and read like a million fucking things, and it's the same fucking problem that I have with Warframe too. But Path of Exile is even worse somehow. It's just, if I know that I'm just ranting here. It's just ranting my frustrations right now. But like, for fuck's sakes, man, if just archive like all the other old mechanics, just let me focus on the new thing. I remember in Path of Exile when the seasons were first coming out, were like the new season wouldn't even have a new mechanic. The very, very first new seasons, it was just a reset. It was just a reset, and that's all. And then eventually they started adding the mechanic thing. It was like, okay, guys, in this reset, we're gonna spice it up. I'm gonna add a new mechanic so everybody can play with. And then everybody would just play that one mechanic because it was there's literally nothing else before. Coco is away. Yeah, Coco's away. And that would be fun because I'm an idiot. I'm a fucking idiot in the sense that I can't focus on too many things. I can't learn too many things at the same time without getting overwhelmed, right? So when it was just one or two things to learn during the new season, that was great. It was great. Let me call her real quick.
That makes sense. Yeah, feature creep is definitely a problem. I've definitely seen it in a lot of games that I play. I've even seen it in like League of Legends too, where it's like now it's at the point where old champions, or at least until they started doing a lot of reworks, old champions were just not able to be played anymore because of all of the new champions that were so much better because of new mechanics. And so it's also I think that's another way to deal with feature creep is if you can update old content to match your current content instead of just adding, new maps or whatever with the content, update what you currently have with your new mechanics. But yeah, it's a challenging problem to deal with. I don't know. I have a ton of games that I played that have definitely dealt with feature creep if they're constantly updated games. And I wonder if that's just kind of an inevitability of the current gaming existence, I guess.
There is a name for this, and it's called games as a live service.
Yeah.
And it has to do with like just the advance of technology where like everything can be online now. So see, that's the problem. Is that just because something can be online, it doesn't mean that it should be. But that's its own other thing. Listen, it is games as a live service, where like games that a game has to constantly be updated, and it needs to be made for the long term, right?
Right.
That's not how games used to be, obviously, because back in the day, the internet was a lot more limited than it is now. So like back in the day, the new Mario game's coming out. Well, we're gonna make an X amount of content for it, and because we're gonna put it in a cartridge, and we can't go into every single people's homes and update the cartridge, whatever goes in, it's in, and that's it. Everything goes out, and whatever bugs were there, they're there.
They're there.
You have to just deal with it.
Yeah,
I got you during Q&A. It's not Q&A. During QA.
Yeah.
But now it's different. It's like now every time, let's say you're a new hire at a AAA company, right? And you're hired to produce or design this new game. Now you have to be challenged and pressured to consider whether or not your game should be a live service. Why? Because they fucking make money.
Yeah,
it's just that simple. A game with microtransactions that updates constantly makes a lot more money than a game that just sells once and then that's it, right?
Yeah.
So now when you design a game, you have to keep in mind it's no longer the question of is my game gonna be good? It's like can my game make more money? Whether or not it's gonna make more money if I make it a live service, and 9 out of 10 times the answer is gonna be yes.
Yeah.
And that is not the fault. And I'm not defending big companies here. It's not the fault of the designer, or even in a sense the big executives of companies. The problem is the consumer, because the consumer is the one who's giving out the money to these companies, right? And you vote with your wallet as a consumer. Total Biscuit said this famously. He said, you vote with your wallet.
Yeah.
Meaning that when you talk when you communicate with a big AAA company, you don't do so through a forum. You don't do so through Twitter. You do so with your fucking wallet. They released DLC on a game. If they see 1 million people spend money on it, they're gonna get a very clear message. Oh, people want updates, right? People want updates. So now that puts a lot more pressure, because over the past decade, we started seeing this shift into games no longer being just their own encapsulated experience, but now they're much more. That now they're this like they're this experience that evolves over time because it gets updated over time.
100%.
And it has extended the longevity of it. But again, if you go back to our previous conversation, just because something can stay alive, quote unquote, alive longer, doesn't mean it's better off because of it. You know, I don't want to get morbid or anything, but a good like example here is a movie. You know, when you go into a movie theater, what do you expect to get out of it? You know, you expect to go in, you expect to watch a movie, and you're gonna watch it for like an hour and a half to 2 hours, maybe, right?
Yeah.
You don't go into a movie theater. You don't buy a ticket to a movie and then expect to stay there for like 12 hours.
Yeah.
You know, or buy a ticket and be like to a movie and then watch the first half of the movie, right? You watch the first half of the movie and you watch 45 minutes of it, let's say. You watch 45 minutes of a movie, and then the movie stops. I'll be like, all right, guys, come back next year for the DLC of this movie. You know, that would be so bullshit, you know? You would be so upset. You'd be like, I've got scammed, right? Like, or like the game doesn't even end at a good cliffhanger. It's like the movie just, they're having a conversation, just halfway through the conversation, bam, black screen. It's like, all right, guys, DLC of the movie coming out next year. Come back for it later. It's like, no, that's ridiculous. But that's the thing. It's because games as a live service have put so much pressure on the game industry.
Yeah.
That games are kind of... The quality of a game is suffering because of it. Because designers of said games are pressured to put their games out as a service, as a live service, instead of just as a one-off experience. When there are so many games out there that are better off not being live service games, but they become live service games not because there's, you know, somebody at the designer end is a bad designer, or you know, the higher ups at a company are super greedy. Of course they are, because that's what a company is for, to make money. It's because us, the consumers,
allow them to do it. Yeah,
spending money. No, not allowing them to do it. We're not allowing these people to do it. We are doing worse. We're encouraging them to do it.
Yeah.
We're telling them do it more.
Encouraging them to continue producing content that way. Which is funny, because even now, as you mention it, I'm thinking back and I'm like, now it's gotten so bad that even movies are doing that, where it's like they make Dune and then you go watch Dune in theaters, and then it's like, come back for Dune Part 2 in 4 years. It's even worse, because it's like,
but that's the thing.
4 years down the road.
That's when it comes to that, I knew that was the example would kind of go bad in a sense. But you have to understand, how long was Dune 1? Like how long of a movie was it?
2.5 hours.
Let me go Google it. 2.5 hours. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. You know, that's fair. But if the movie was 30 minutes long and then it did that shit, come back for Part 2 later, then you would be upset. But if a movie entertains me, if I spend fucking $20 or whatever the hell a ticket is nowadays, if I spend that amount of money and I get 2 hours of entertainment worth out of it, I say that's worth it.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%.
If I had fun.
And it is a good movie.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is kind of funny. I definitely think in games, though, it's worse significantly. And it's definitely like we've been talking about. The problem is definitely with the consumers allowing it to happen, in the essence of there are very few people who talk about it and even fewer people who even stand against it. But yeah, it's interesting. I think most game developers probably try to fight it in one way or another. But it's just so hard, because it is one of those things where it's like, it is definitely a battle for a game developer too, because they also want to add more content to their game because it's their passion project. And so it's interesting. I definitely feel like a game that has had feature creep, but in a good way, is like Civilization. And that's just because it's such a complicated fucking game that it's okay for it to get even more complicated and even more complicated. But yeah, it is interesting. I don't know. I guess it also depends on the style of game then too, of whether or not feature creep is bad. Because another thing I've noticed is, of course, I definitely don't feel like anybody ever sits down and is like, I'm going to play a 30-minute game of Civilization, because you're not going to. So it's like, if you sit down to play Civilization, you know that you're in it for, 6+ hours probably just to get anything at all done. And so feature creep isn't as big of a problem because you're already invested in it like that. But definitely for a lot of games, and for a while, like League of Legends, I mean, that was part of it, is like League of Legends had feature creep, and then they added more of their items, and the feature creep in the items led to people being like, I'm mad because I can never build the item that I want because games aren't long enough. And then League of Legends started making games longer because people weren't getting to full build and getting their power fantasy with their chosen characters sometimes. And then that created, a whole other, selection of problems and insane things. And so it's just very interesting. It's very interesting how it definitely has affected almost every game that I've played that isn't, like you talked about, very static, as in old, or it's like, good at archiving stuff. But I feel like definitely older games don't have as big of a problem with it, but are definitely starting to have even more of a problem. Like even as they add content to things like, well, I guess Portal, but not so much because Portal's Portal. But adding content to a lot of games that maybe should be just make another game, man. Just make a new game. Which is another solution, of course, is just make a different game, which I think is what Team Cherry ended up realizing. And I think that's why a lot of the stuff that we saw promised for Hollow Knight will never come to Hollow Knight. Mm-hmm. It'll be in their sequels, either in sequel? Yeah, either in whenever I'm trying to remember what it's called comes out. But yeah, I think we'll see some of that promised content simply because it is required that they follow through on their promises, but they've realized that adding it to Hollow Knight would detract instead of add to the game. So that's one of the things that I'm really I admire Team Cherry for, is that they have all of this content that they want to create, but they're not going to add it to Hollow Knight because Hollow Knight is full enough, is kind of where they're at. Yeah. It's like, we don't want to add more because we're afraid it'll just make it worse. And so
Hollow Knight has I haven't played the game myself, but from what I've seen, from the playthroughs that I've seen, it looks like a complete experience to me already. It does not need more content. Sure, 100%. There could be DLC in the form of bosses, to kind of extend the game a little bit more here and there. But
that's what they did. The thing with
it. I love it. I love what you're saying. That oh god. I love what you said. It's like, why? Because it makes sense. Why feature creep an old game, a game that's already a complete game?
Yeah.
Why do that when you could just make a sequel? Just make a brand new game. You know, because that's what a good sequel is. A good sequel is more of the same, right? It's more of the same good thing of the previous game, but changed enough to become its own experience. It's like, it's kind of weird it's kind of weird to explain, but it's like it's more of the same game, but it provides you the same. It should provide you this. Okay. Let me use the same words that I use. It should provide you a similar gameplay loop, but at the same time, give you new experiences. New things to experience while having a similar gameplay loop.
100%.
Because you watch Lord of the Rings, you watch the first movie, right? And it's a dark, and it's a high fantasy. It's a high fantasy movie. You don't go into watching the second movie and all of a sudden expect a comedy.
Yeah.
So a good sequel is something that kind of like gives you the same thing but in different ways.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
which is ironically enough kind of why
I wish
I'm excited for Overwatch 2, because I'm hoping that they'll actually do that they'll fix some of their problems and hopefully make the game better. Now, of course, it's Blizzard, so you never know. But it is one of those things where it's like, I think it is admirable, kind of in the same essence of Hollow Knight and Team Cherry, as Blizzard is making Overwatch 2, because they've realized that maybe adding another hero or two or whatever to Overwatch 1 would be a good idea. But I think that part of the purpose for making Overwatch 2 is for two things, and one of which is kind of in the opposite direction, but I think it is also to make it easier and more seamless to add more content to Overwatch 2, because Overwatch 1 is such a static game that it's kind of hard to add more content to, I think. But also to fix some problems that they have in Overwatch 1 and fix some balancing issues that they have in Overwatch 1. And I think that'll be interesting. I think that'll be cool to see what they have to do. And I don't know, we'll see how it plays out, but it's definitely going to be interesting. And I'm always happy to see when, instead of just adding new content to a current game developers are willing to create a sequel. And that is definitely one of the things that I appreciate about From Software, because they are really good about, like, this is our game, bugs and all, and we'll bug patch anything that we feel like is game breaking. But other than that, like, we're not going to add DLCs, really. We're not going to add extraneous content. This game is this game. Go and enjoy it. Enjoy the experience, or don't. And, come back for the spiritual successor or direct successor of this game. And that's how we get Demon Souls and Ashen and of course, Elden Ring. And so, which are all, once again, good games in their own right, with different stories and different thematics, as well as all the, the Bloodborne as well. Different game, different thematic, different story, but similar gameplay loop in the essence of, you're doing these checkpoints, you're fighting these bosses, you're grinding against lower level, pretty much adds to try and build up your level so that you can go defeat a big boss. And so I think that's really interesting. I think it's really cool to kind of see that still in play. And I'm hoping that, From Software continues to do that with Elden Ring, instead of trying to just add more content to Elden Ring, make another game, which I think they will, because they've been doing that for a long time. I don't think that they're going to switch to gameplay as a living service anytime soon. I
think I've started to get a feeling that, I don't know. I have this hunch, and I'm probably wrong, so nobody quote me on this, but I get the feeling Elden Ring is probably one of the last Dark Souls-like games we're going to see.
It might be.
From Software.
It might be.
I get the feeling that at some point, that studio is going to have to move into something different. That they have to be tired of making the same kind of game.
I actually don't think so.
At some point,
I will actually disagree with you there.
Personally, that's just me. Kind of like the way that Masahiro Sakurai went when he created Smash Ultimate. He straight up announced to everybody, this is going to be the last Smash game I'll make.
Right.
But I get the feeling that, and maybe not necessarily Elden Ring being that, like the ultimate of Dark Souls. Haha! Okay, no. Okay. I don't think Elden Ring will be the last Dark Souls game, but it's probably one of the last that studio will make, because I feel like how to put it, like, they're they burn the candle on both ends, and now in terms of creativity for Dark Souls games, and at some point they have to like expand into a different genre. I feel like they would.
I think
personally,
rather than saying they have to expand into different genre, I would say that they definitely have to experiment more with different styles of mechanics. But I don't think that I don't think they'll stop making games like Dark Souls. I don't think they'll stop making the Soulsborns. And the reason
is like
the reason
they already did kind of like swap things up. Sorry to interrupt, but they already did swap things up. First with Bloodborne, and then with Sekiro. You know, but so we're already there. We're already at that. And it's been 2 years since they released Sekiro. And you have to understand that when it comes to game development, like a game starts development years before it's even announced. So they're probably already, if I were to bet, and I'm not a betting man, if I were to bet, I bet that they are already working on a game that is nothing like a Dark Souls game.
Yeah.
But anyways, go on, sorry.
I don't think they're making that. I don't think they're looking to make anything different than a Dark Souls game. I don't think they think that they'll continue at least. And the other thing is, I mean, FromSoft has a lot of titles. That has to be said, is that just because Dark Souls is their most well-known, they do make a lot of other games. They make a lot of games that have nothing to do with Dark Souls already. So I don't think that they'll get tired of making them for that reason alone. But also because the Soulsborne style has become more than just a game to those people, the people who make it. The community in charge of development at From Software has been very open about how they feel about the games, and they're pretty. I mean, like when you listen to the project director for the Soulsborne games, this is what he loves doing. He loves making these games. And so I don't think that that they'll ever fall away from that, because it is it's more than just a passion project too. It's literally like his dream is to make these games. And it's interesting because when he talks about it, it's like some people have been accusing him of being a sadist and liking making other people be in pain. And what's interesting is that he actually said it's the opposite. That he likes that gameplay style, that he enjoys that experience. And so anything that happens in the game is his fantasy in life, which is a little bit fucked up. But because of that, I don't think that they'll fall away from that style of gameplay. That, you know, just shy or maybe even into abusive style of gameplay, just because that's what he likes to play. That's what he likes to make. That's his whole thing. And I don't think From Software is going to derivate from that, considering that they've been making games in that style for more than a decade now, because Dark Souls 1 came out in 2011. And so it's been 11 years and they're still not tired of it. And according to the people who are in development there, right, which they do have a long development cycle, because like when you think about it, that's 11 years. Dark Souls 1 came out in 2011. Dark Souls 2 came out in 2014. And then the DLC came out in 2015. Bloodborne came out in 2015. Dark Souls 3 came out in 2016. Sekiro came out in 2019. And Elden Ring came out in 2022. So they have been making the Soulsborne games nonstop for 11 years. And if you can do something nonstop for 11 years, you're probably not going to stop anytime soon. And so I don't think I disagree. I think that we'll see more Soulsborne. And I think they'll keep on getting more expansive. And just like Dark Souls 3 was like, I think the average playthrough of completion of Dark Souls 3 was something in the area of like 70 hours. And I think the average in Elden Ring is probably going to be longer than that. They're just going to keep making these games more expansive, more immersive, and have more world building behind them. And that's all they're going to do. as well as add more mechanics and more challenges and make you figure out new and different combat puzzles. And I think that's and more new and different combat styles as well. Because like magic is a much more involved part of Elden Ring than even in the Dark Souls games, and it's not even that strong yet. So they might strike more into that, but it'll be interesting. I did talk about Coco. I did.
No, we're just messing around in chat.
The rabbit, I know.
But yeah, it will be wonderful. An interesting.
But yeah, it'll be an interesting thing.
We will see what happens.
We'll see.
I don't know.
I could be
wrong.
I
think when it comes to like the creative battery that is, or the creative juices of all the talent that is in that studio, it has to be running a little low when it comes to Dark Souls stuff.
I don't think so.
That's what I'm thinking again.
I don't think so.
We'll see.
We'll see.
I
think that as a general rule, in my experience, they don't. When people are as passionate about a project as people are about the Dark Soulsborne or the Soulsborne games, in the content creation process, I think that they usually don't run dry on battery. Those are the kind of people who make the games until they die. Like the old-fashioned game developers, which is what they're trying to emulate. Of like back in the day when game developers literally made it just because they loved it, because they didn't even get their names on the games. It was just all Nintendo. Nobody even knew, or it was just, in a box somewhere and nobody knew who made it. And so, I don't know. I think we'll see more. I'm excited to see more at the least. I hope we see more, because I personally enjoy that style of gameplay too. I enjoy it feels like I've accomplished something, And it requires a large time investment, and I don't have a whole lot of that right now, so I haven't been playing them recently. But I definitely like the fact that, unlike where a lot of games, and this is kind of how I feel about like Warframe, which is I can invest a lot of time and get nowhere. Whereas in the Soulsborne games, when I invest a lot of time, I make progress, and I feel like I've accomplished something in terms of getting better skills at the game, as well as kind of learning things too, because the lore of the game actually has like meaning behind it. And in meaning there is, and in knowledge there is power. And I think that's it's just an interesting thing that the way they've organized the games is a full immersive experience. And when you really do decide to look at the lore of the Dark Souls games and just the Soulsborne games, there is heavy allegory and meaning in the story. And it's not just like depression and doom. That's part of it, but there's more to it than just that, of like just purpose and what it means and stuff like that. It's very interesting. It's a very interesting thematic that I really do enjoy. Sacrifice the VTubers. Yes. Sacrifice the VTubers to the bunny lord.
Plot twist.
Plot twist.
Plot twist. Coco was the real unspeakable god of the void all along.
Exactly. The rabbit is the true unspeakable lord. Rabbits
look at that for
look at it.
Infinity heights within it. Unspeakable horrors. The cosmic truth. All within this fur.
Speak truth to power.
Alright, Tully. I am starving.
Okay.
What about you?
I am pretty hungry, so I say we take a break.
I think we call it here.
And play Dota. I think that's a good option. Where can we find you? Go ahead and plug yourself.
Ooh,
Obviously.
little old me?
Yeah, little old you.
All right. So you can find me at twitch.tv/Hallik25. That is Hallik, Hallik, and 2 and 5. I have a Discord now, by the way, guys. So if you want to join the Discord, you have to go to my page, and scroll down a little bit to the channel page. There's also a little Discord icon that's kind of hidden. It's doesn't work very well. But you can click that too, and it'll take you to my server. Also, do not forget to go to the roles channel if you do enter the Discord.
Yep.
And make sure you pick the appropriate role for yourself so that you get notified, or you don't get notified when I go live.
Correct.
So, Thule, where can we find your person?
Well, I'm in the Discord as well, and I think we did post today about the podcast. You can also find me on Twitch TV Cthulhu Tilly, no spaces. That is CTHULHUTILLY. As well as you can find me on Instagram there, TikTok there. I actually posted a TikTok kind of advertising our last podcast, and I'll probably do that for this one again. But yeah, you can also find me. I think that's pretty much it for now. Instagram as well as TikTok, as well as my Twitch. And we'll be streaming Dota 2 here in a bit. But yeah, for all you podcast listeners, thank you for joining us. And I hope you have a wonderful night. And yeah, come back again soon.
We'll catch you 2 weeks from now.
We appreciate you listening to Chatting in the Void with Cthulhu Tilly and Hallik. You can find a video version of our podcast on YouTube and our audio podcast anywhere where podcasts are found. Go give Hallik a follow at twitch.tv/Hallik25 and catch our podcast live at 7 p.m. EST every other Saturday. Have a wonderful day, or night, or whatever. Thank you for joining us in the Void. Hope to see you next time.